Hey guys, welcome to the Trash Picture Show. So, last night I watched all 5 episodes of HBO's Chernobyl, and while it wasn't necessarily a pleasant watch, I do think it was a necessary watch and something that I think everyone needs to take a look at. Um, I'm fairly sure everyone knows about the events of Chernobyl, but if you don't, essentially in 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear plant, the reactor exploded, raining fallout and debris over a massive area of a place then known as Pripyat. There was a massive evacuation, but not until 34 hours after the reactor exploded. In that time, hundreds of the population were exposed to nuclear fallout, and the series explores how, while the radiation was immensely lethal, uh, basically deception and ignorance was just as dangerous. And you had a handful of people who would have never gotten the recognition they deserved, uh, featured in this show. Essentially, you have a scientist played by Jared Harris who is like blocked and dismissed at every turn, and his only ally is Stellan Skarsgård's kind of um, Soviet kind of company man who has to toe the line, but slowly comes round to Harris's way of thinking that the Soviet Union really doesn't know how to handle this or doesn't want to even acknowledge that it has flaws. Like the characters bring up constantly that when Harris brings up that there was faults with the actual reactor itself, he's constantly told this can't happen. Nuclear reactors don't explode in the Soviet Union, and it's amazing the amount of things that happened in the show that people never knew about. For example, if it wasn't for the work of some miners, or if it wasn't for the work of some brave men who went in and drained the actual the water section of the plant, it would have caused massive ecological damage to the entire continent and to neighboring countries. And just Russia were so cloak and dagger. They didn't want anyone to know about this. For example, they got a lend of a bomb disposal robot to remove radioactive debris from the top of one of the reactor towers, but they didn't want to acknowledge that the radiation levels were so dangerous. So when they put up the German robot called Joker, its systems completely fried because it wasn't designed to be exposed to such high levels of radiation, and they were just so fucking ignorant to the situation, or just didn't want to acknowledge that they were in so much shit, or show weakness to other countries, that they gave, as Stalin Strasgard says, they gave the party number to the Germans. They gave the agreed number of the radiation levels. Um, the show was incredibly atmospheric. The scene where three of the factory workers have to go in and drain the 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 basement part of the plant is like something out of a horror movie. It's incredibly atmospheric, and there was scenes where like characters were going through contaminated water or going through contaminated parts of the building, and I literally had shivers. I was like, Jesus Christ, what must it have been like for people to be exposed and be around such kind of volatile and dangerous material. Again, there's amazing performances from Jared Harris and Stellan Skarsgård. uh, Harris, his character is just so, you feel so sorry for him. He's basically shot down at every turn, and he's ridiculed for speaking the truth. In the finish, he ends up being made a social pariah in Russia for the simple sin of being honest and telling the Russian government and the Russian authority that they cut corners and it's their fault that Chernobyl happened. but he had to come clean because Russia would have Russia would have blundered on and not bothered trying to not bothered trying to fix the situation. I think his character's name was Legislav, and he actually hung himself 2 years after the events of Chernobyl because he was just so fucking distraught at the state of affairs and the fact he'd been given himself a death sentence. He was sent to Chernobyl and exposed to radiation along with other people. They sent in coal miners, 400 coal miners, and I think 100 out of the 400 didn't live to make it to 40. And just it just goes to show how blatantly ignorant and corrupt and basically manipulative the Russian government was, and how many people suffered. And I think if it wasn't for this series, we wouldn't know a lot of things we now know about Chernobyl. I highly recommend it. I think it is valid now as it ever has been. Like we are facing like one of the worst environmental crises in existence with the likes of global warming, and there are so many people that feel they need to turn a blind eye and say, "Oh, it'll probably never happen." We can't keep on going on like that. And I think a show like Chernobyl proves that point. You can't approach things with an ignorant or a kind of head in the sand approach to things. So, my name is Martin. This has been a Trash Picture Show. I highly recommend you to check out Chernobyl. I will warn you, it's not for the squeamish. The makeup effects and the practical effects on some of the burn victims is harrowing, and it should show exactly what it is. But I will warn you, episode 3 is rough going. I will warn you that. So my name is Martin. This has been the Trash Picture Show. Have you watched the Chernobyl series? And if so, what did you think of it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and have a good one. Take care. Bye now.